Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Professional Mind Care podcast. I'm Ryan, and I'm thrilled to be joined today by AnneMoss Rogers, who is a professional mental health speaker, trainee, and consultant. She's a renowned expert who started the Emotionally Naked blog, has two books published. One of them is Diary of a Broken Mind and Emotionally Naked, and has done a TED Talk, which and again, just as a disclaimer, professional mind care does not provide any clinical treatments. This is just a discussion on how to prevent and raise awareness on the topic of suicide prevention. So if you or a loved one are in need of help, please contact certified professionals. And Anne, I'll throw to you. And if you want to do a little intro, introduce yourself. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. So you have to call me AnneMoss. It's a double name. It's a Southern thing. Yeah. So I live in the southern part of the United States, just barely, because I'm in Virginia, which is right on the line. And we use double names a lot of times.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. So I guess I'll start kind of just with just a question here off the bat. So again, this is all about suicide prevention and awareness. Things that we've noticed, and obviously, I'm sure you've noticed based on your career. So, just want to start with you. Like, what are some common kind of warning signs that somebody may be struggling with thoughts of suicide? Just based on the things you've seen and studied before.
So it's what they do and what they say. About 85% of those struggling with thoughts of suicide will leave some kind of sign. And lots of times they're very subtle to us, but to them they're flashing neon signs. So some of the things they might be doing is taking more risks, isolating a lot. This friend group you're in, all of a sudden this person's not showing back up, they're not texting you back, and you may start to take that personally. But it's not about you, it's about something they're going through. They may look kind of unkept. They look like they haven't taken a shower, and this person is always, beautifully dressed, and today they look terrible. They're not getting enough sleep. They're drinking and drugging more. They may be talking about death a lot. My son, his entire life, talked about death a lot. And I wish I would have asked, what makes you talk about early death so much? And just sat back, ask it with compassion and curiosity, not accusation and judgment. But instead, I kind of froze because that told me how often that he struggled with those thoughts of suicide. I had no idea. So those are some of the things that they do. Give away prized possessions. Lots of times they'll call a lot of different family members and they won't necessarily say goodbye, but it is a goodbye. Sometimes they put a goodbye sort of sounding letter on social media like, oh, you guys have been so great. I have so many beautiful friends in my life. And everybody kind of comes in like, oh, thank you so much, when it's really they're kind of asking for help. So my son put up on social media, if I died, no one would notice for 30 days. If you want to see who really cares about you, see who's there when you have nothing. Death sounds nice. So, over several days, keep that online. And those are cries for help. Those are, please reach out.
Yeah.
Reach out to somebody who's attached to me to let them know that you think that they may be struggling with thoughts of suicide. So some of the things they might say, I can't do this anymore. I want to die. I'm so worthless. I'm a burden. Burden and worthless being sort of red flag words you really want to pay attention to. What it is you start to feel it in your gut. You feel that sense of despair, especially if you know what that person is going through and some of the other signs that you have noticed, like Nobody dies by suicide because they're going through a divorce, that being the only reason. It is a contributing factor. But if you know that person is going through a major life change, like a divorce or a romantic breakup, we need to be concerned, and we need to ask the question, are you thinking of suicide?
Yeah,
And we need to ask it directly. Are you thinking of killing yourself? Are you thinking of suicide? And if it is a young child, were you thinking of making yourself dead? Because kids as young as 8 can start to think about suicide.
that's terrible. I mean,
Yeah.
it's good to, it's good that like, I could imagine just asking somebody a question flat out like that, you'd probably catch them off guard. And something like that, they might be more inclined to be more honest and have that discussion instead of kind of, beating around the bush and giving them an opportunity to, kind of not confront themselves about those thoughts, kind of give them an out to be like, no, I'm okay, like everything's all right, just having a hard time, right? When they really are kind of, considering.
And invite that conversation.
Yes,
Well,
yeah,
just tell me more about that hard time. Now, if you ask the question and they wait, you say, are you thinking of suicide? And they don't answer you for like a few seconds. And then they say, no, I'm not entirely convinced. So why don't you start by, telling me more about what's going on? Now, before you ask that question, you're usually not going to blurt out that question because you've seen these signs. You're going to say, you know, I think that things don't seem like, I feel like things might not be going right for you. And I feel this sense of despair. So I want to listen to you and I want to hear what you have to say. I'm going to shut up and I want you to talk and I want you to tell me what's up. And then, really listen. And that means not saying, oh, you have so much to live for, because you do that, because that's invalidating how
yeah,
someone's feeling. That's
yeah,
not meeting them where they are, and we need to meet them where they are. Then we ask the question, but we want to say, tell me more, I am listening. That's really your magic phrase.
yeah. No, that's really, really impactful and definitely very, good information for a lot of people out there who are struggling, and or people who are noticing their loved ones struggling for sure. Aside from, I guess, maybe having that conversation, which, I think can be a bit tough for, for
Oh,
anyone
yeah.
to talk about that, even to kind of mention it, obviously, because nobody wants to, you don't want to ask somebody that and have them kind of, have something prepared, or just even having that conversation is uncomfortable. Are there any,
Oh, wait, let's stop there because that's a really important point.
yeah,
This is an uncomfortable question. Practice asking your windshield or in your shower. But I'm going to tell you, no matter how many times you ever ask this question, and I've asked it hundreds of times, you will never feel 100% comfortable asking it. It's going to feel uncomfortable. So just know that going in
yeah,
and say, I'm going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to really make me cringe. I don't want to do this, but I'm going ahead and doing it anyway. So sit with that thought for a second. Allow that feeling to come in and then go, oh, pushing you aside because this is life or death. So
yeah,
I'm going to ask the question because it's important. Okay. A lot of people don't want to ask it because they're like, well, that person might be mad. And I would ask you, would you rather have a friend or loved one mad at you or dead? Your choice.
and that's very powerful for sure. Yeah, I mean, definitely, you know, feeling like you can kind of embrace, that, muster that strength in order to ask that question is definitely very important. And the way you kind of spun it there on the end, at the end, with the last thing you said was really impactful to be like, would you rather maybe have an uncomfortable conversation, or would you rather, be not see that person for the rest of your life, So yeah, that's very powerful.
And
Um,
what you're doing is you're saving, helping somebody else save their own life, because you can stop suicide with your ears.
yeah.
And that's how we do it. It's not, not going to talk them out of it. That's not possible. But allowing them to feel heard is how we can make an impact.
Mhm. Yeah, that's amazing. So I'm just wondering, like, what are some resources you think are kind of available for individuals like that are in crisis or in need of any mental health support, based on like your experience?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you first list the USA crisis, and that is 988. You can text it, you can do online chat, you can call them. And let's say you're sitting with that person and you don't know what the next steps are, because who's going to remember this podcast and remember what steps? So I'm not even going to give you what happens next, because you'd never remember it. And it's different for every area and for every situation. So you would call that whatever emergency is available to you. I do know that the crisis text line is also good in Canada. That's 741-741. You can text that together with the person you are not sitting next to if they're somewhere else. You can do a group text if they're sitting right there going, dude, I have no idea what to do next, but I'm here with you, and let's figure this out together. Then you're showing partnership. That person feels less isolated and alone.
Yeah.
And then you reach out to that crisis line. They're going to find out where you are and where you live, and they're going to give you next steps based on what is available in your area.
Well, that's great. It's great information to have for sure. Yeah, I mean, like I said at the start with the disclaimer, if anyone if anyone or if yourself are in crisis, definitely reach out to those numbers or seek some sort of professional care, because you're not alone,
Right.
and nobody's alone, and nobody deserves to be alone for sure. Um, just to kind of
It's a
put it,
crisis. In that moment, it's a crisis. If
yeah,
they come to you and say, I attempted last week, it's still something you need to follow up on, but it's obviously not they need to go to the emergency room to get a suicide risk assessment and a safety plan right then, you
mhm,
know, because, they're not going to take you in an emergency situation if it's not an emergency.
yeah, no, that's true. Just kind of curious, like what progress have you identified that helps to say prevent suicide?
What programs?
Yeah, like what programs or what steps have you taken, um,
I
in
think
your professional experience?
really what we've done over the last few years is talk about it more.
Mhm,
And because everyday people know their loved ones, and they need to be recognizing signs when things aren't normal. And that's when we can intervene and just be the bridge to getting the help they need. And there are a lot more people aware of those signs because a lot of people are talking about them. Even teenagers now will. I remember when my son put out those messages on Twitter and Facebook, nobody really commented on it. They didn't know how to react. Those kids know how to react now.
mhm,
They go tell a trusted adult, and a trusted adult is also a slightly annoying adult. Everybody should have at least two people that they would talk to even before crisis hits, when they're struggling with something, so that you can prevent yourself from getting to crisis. But you want to have two people that you feel like you can trust and talk to, who won't try to fix it, who won't say you have so much to live for, and won't be trying to throw solutions. Well, you just need to cut out sugar. if you got more exercise, I mean,
Yeah.
it's BS. You don't want that.
Yeah. You definitely just want like a sympathetic pair of ears and maybe someone who will give you, I guess, like a voice to talk about what it is you're feeling and to kind of, have that moment to come out of your shell and to express yourself and what it is you're, like what it is you're going through. Um,
And if you're the person hearing it, not the person struggling, but the person hearing it, the greatest fear is, oh, they put this big thing in my lap that I'm responsible for. First of all, you're not. You can't save somebody's life. All you can do is help them save their own life. And you will feel strangely connected and empowered instead of like down and depressed.
yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't know that.
I could definitely see that as being a positive, just being able to be there for somebody. I mean, we're all built on that foundation where we all like appreciate help when we need it, and it goes the other way around too when you're able to help somebody out and make them maybe feel valued and respected and everything. So yeah, that's very good.
Exactly.
Yeah, very good information. So just quickly, I know earlier you mentioned like you said something about young people as young as 8 years old can have thoughts of like really dark thoughts or thinking about death. So just kind of wondering like what are some I guess like effective ways to kind of promote prevention in like say schools and communities like starting from a young age.
Well, with your elementary age, it's mostly looking at the kids who have impulse control issues, trauma at home, and maybe a lot of self-esteem issues. So those kids are usually at high risk, and being able to kind of get to the bottom of why they feel that way. So everybody thinks I'm ugly, and all of us want to say, you're not ugly, but we need to say, well, why do you think that everyone thinks you're ugly? And, then kind of empathize. That must feel really awful. And then you can, if you hear that enough, now every kid may say that once or twice, but if there is a regular pattern of impulsivity or, that self-hatred, and you're seeing some disturbing signs, that's when you need to connect with a school counselor and tell them what your thoughts are. I'm really concerned about Benji. He may be drawing pictures. Doing a picture of his family over here, and he's drawing himself over here. Why did he draw himself so far from the family? So in elementary school, you'd say, Benji, you drew yourself so far from your family. Tell me about that. Tell me about your picture. And they'll tell you about their picture. Or you might say, you ran out in the middle of traffic the other day, and I think you saw that car coming, but I'm really concerned about that. Can you tell me what was happening at that moment when you ran out in the middle of the street? Because sometimes impulsive children who want to die will just run out into the road,
Yeah.
and later they don't really know why, but you can try to get to the bottom of it, because that's really alarming behavior, because most kids really know that that's not what you do, especially if there's not like a ball that they're chasing after. They just run out there
Yeah.
and they know a car is coming.
And just on that too, like for example, people who are older, like professionals working in offices and whatever job you're in, is there any kind of you know, like how can a workplace create a supportive environment for employees with mental health issues and just kind of promote, I guess, a better well-being for their employees? Is there anything that you would kind of gravitate towards too, or things like that?
I think really, so a lot of companies really focus on productivity. So they figure the best way to get more productivity is to have somebody come in and train them on productivity, when in fact it's really all about mental health and feeling a sense of connection and belonging. So at a workplace, one of the most important foundations is that feeling of connection and belonging. So what can you do in your workplace to cultivate that feeling of connection and belonging? And so I have a series of activities I do with, and boy, yesterday or this week, this month is World Mental Health Month. And I mean, everybody's going to the specific blog post that gives you a lot of ideas of meeting activities to do, some short, some long. And even if you're uncomfortable talking about suicide specifically or mental health specifically, getting everyone to laugh together and, just start the conversation with really bringing people together is your number one. But also to ease yourself into that mental health conversation. And like, I've got a quiz. Okay, it's World Mental Health Day, and because of that, we're going to all take this quiz. And then start a discussion, and I've got like the answer key with some, talking points to get people to start talking about it, because then they feel seen and heard. Because what we want to do is we want to get people before they get to crisis. We want to get people early in the process, and we want to create that environment where people don't feel like they're being slighted or left out. And that is really the key. We also don't know who's struggling, because lots of times it's the funniest guy in the office. But you'll see moments where that mask is down, and then you'll kind of talk yourself out of it because he's always so funny. An employee who feels angry and irritable all the time is often struggling with depression or thoughts of suicide. So a lot of things that we think are something else, we need to step back and go, this isn't about me. What are the facts here? And just every meeting start with some kind of icebreaker activity to just get people connected with one another.
Make everyone feel like it's not so much like a workplace, more of like kind of a community, or that kind
relationships.
Yeah, like a family almost, where everyone can feel open and connected and on the same level. Um, can you speak to, I guess, like more like the stigma kind of surrounding like mental health and say suicide, with respect in a sense more to like a working environment? Is there any kind of comment you could give on that?
Yeah, well, I think that stigma is really has to do with conversation. And that's usually when people hire me to come in, or like I'll do virtual presentations to businesses a lot of times. And that starts that conversation. Remember what AnneMoss was saying, da 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 da. And then once they kind of hear me open up and be vulnerable, lots of times other people are inspired to do the same. And then I do a training for managers on mental health, and kind of really it's all about ideas. Here are the signs to look for. Here's how to take care of yourself. And here's what your responsibility is. We don't expect you to solve all their issues, because you can't do that, right? I mean, because there's so many personal issues that you have no control over. And again, it goes back to that listening step. Can you allow that person to feel heard? And you don't have to sit there and listen for 2 hours. You just have to listen long enough to say, I feel a lot of concern, and I want to make sure that you get connected with the help that you need. How can I help you? I have some suggestions, but before we do that, I want to hear what you have to say, and then tell me how I can help you.
Yeah. Would you say that I mean, I feel like that is definitely like a good approach, very tactful, kind of direct. But would you say that like a lot of people would still feel, I guess, a little more resistant to say opening up to say a manager or a director or even like a coworker in general, would you say that that would still be a challenge? And how do you kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
like how would you kind of overcome that? Like if like as the individual who's struggling, like what are some ways that you can overcome it in order to feel comfortable?
You know, you kind of, most people, what they do when they're struggling
Yeah.
will kind of start with something else. This is going on in my family, to kind of test the waters and see how that person takes it. And if they're not doing a great job of listening, or they, say, well, you should eat less sugar or some crap like that, they're going to back out, and they're not going to talk at work. So that's why workplaces have speakers come in to kind of break the ice and get people thinking and get people talking and get people recognizing signs of depression, anxiety. What can we do in the workplace? But kind of overall, okay, we're this kind of workplace. We have these kind of people, whether they're virtual, or what activities would fit best with them. And, like I have them do a role play of having a difficult conversation, one that is not about suicide and one that is about suicide, so that they can kind of practice and get the idea, and it's just a conversation. And you're really not saying that much.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just wanting to
Break the ice.
show partnership with that person.
I see. Yeah. Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Again, is having that sense of someone to talk to. Because like a lot of people, when they work a 9 to 5, like a lot of people are single, right? They don't have someone to go home to. They don't have the family, connection, right? So a lot
Yeah.
of them rely on the people that they work with throughout the day to, to talk to and form relationships with. So yeah, definitely. Like I think breaking the ice and having the conversations, even if they're difficult, definitely are something that should be should definitely be practiced a lot more, and hopefully we like see some more results, right, with everything.
If I walk in my manager's office and I see
Mm.
on the wall a crisis text poster, and, he or she regularly, has like a resource table for loved ones with addiction, if you struggle with addiction or eating disorders, and it comes across as a safe space because you've put these resources out there. Maybe your manager has tagged one of the employees to put together a PDF of local resources that are available, groups. Like here in the USA, we have National Alliance of Mental Illness, and it has family support groups and it has peer support groups. Where does that exist? And can you do, an employee resource group around, you know, around the topic, mental wellness in the workplace? You could call it that. So I've seen a lot of those crop up because I spoke to a lot of them in
Yeah.
September.
So would you agree that like you mentioned, like this is obviously mental health month, mental health awareness month, and everything. Would you agree that like say like a lot of companies tend to kind of um, send out emails and things, for HR support and join a call more so around the time of months like this? And do you think that it should be something that is, kind of not just talked about once a year? Do you think it should be something that is kind of practiced and, talked about more regularly than just, during 1 month of the year or during, 1 week out of the year or something like that?
If you want more productivity,
Mhm.
more profit, and higher retention, you need to pay attention to your mental health, and that should be number one. It's not all about spreadsheets and pushing people, and that's not where it's at. People stay where they feel cared about.
Yeah.
They stay when it's a safe space. They'll work their butts off of you, off if they feel like you're going to support them and be there and have their back. They're not going to do that if you're constantly bringing in productivity, and looking at the numbers. You've been my top salesman for the past year, but for the past couple of months, you've really fallen off. If somebody has fallen off for 2 months and they were your top person for a year,
Yeah.
something is going on in that person's life. What kind of accommodations can you make for that individual to be able to weather that crisis so they can come back strong later? Because nobody drops down and goes from the A student to the C student overnight. Something is going on.
And again, it's definitely important to ask the question, right? And maybe have a one-on-one or have that
Tell
conversation.
me what's going on. You've not been yourself. I'm not here to write you up about something, but I'm here as a human, one human to another. Tell me what's going on,
Yeah.
because you don't seem like yourself. Make it about them.
Yeah.
It's not about the numbers and productivity and you're falling behind, because that's just going to push people towards the crisis waterfall,
Yeah.
and that's not where we want to go.
Yeah. Just showing them that you care as
Right.
you said, like a human, and that they're not a KPI or a number. It definitely will definitely go a long way. And like you mentioned, the retention. I think that is something that's huge for sure with people staying and wanting to stay where they feel valued, where they feel cared about. Even if it means making maybe say a little bit less money, and they have a better work life balance. I think
Right.
most people would tend to. I mean, I know I would tend to prefer to stay somewhere where I feel safe and valued and everything. Um, yeah, just a question. So like, what do you think? What role like social media plays in influencing like suicide rates? And how do you think we can use it positively to raise awareness and provide support?
So I use it to, raise awareness and support. This is access to all kinds of things, especially the younger they are, the more likely they are to be addicted to it. And we are all addicted to our phones now because our whole lives are in there. We lose
Yeah,
our phone. It's like, oh my gosh, you can't even operate, right? So that's really where it started. And then people kind of get addicted to that gratification on social media, or, like an influencer, you think, oh my gosh, their life is so wonderful. It's so great. And then we find out it's all a house of cards. Their life looked good to us because that's what they wanted us to see. So on social media, their entire goal is to keep you there as long as possible and to keep you from leaving the platform. That's why these days, if you put up a post in Facebook and do a link, the algorithm isn't going to give you, any attention at all. But if you tell your whole story, or if you upload that video to Facebook or TikTok or Instagram or wherever, they're like, okay, we like this person because they're going to keep people on our platform. Now that algorithm is basically a math equation, and the places that you have visited are what are going to show up. And then they're going to figure out your demographic and show you things related to the things that you like and the age they think you are. And so they're designed to keep you there longer and to kind of make you addicted to
yeah,
coming back for more. And for young people especially, it's just really dangerous because they're addicted to their phones anyway, and they're going for that peer support and those likes, and they want to see it. It's like Pavlov's dog, that experiment,
yeah, yeah,
that we all know about. And then there are just so many things that happen on social media. They sell drugs on social media. And we're giving these phones to 8-year-olds, and we're not putting any guardrails around it, or we're putting some app that we think they can't get through.
Yeah.
We, the parents, we own these. We have to put some guardrails around. No phone in your room after 9 p.m. at night. They all go charge in my bathroom, yours
Yeah.
included. You need to make those rules and boundaries. One household said, as soon as you walk in the house, it goes in the basket at the front door. And the kids have always done that. All their friends have always done it. So that's their expectation when they go to their house. So that may be too extreme for you, and that's okay. Find find somewhere in there that you
Yeah.
can live with,
Yeah. Find
because
distance
those
for it.
those devices are very addictive.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think too, like, especially like for younger people, you mentioned like 8, 9, 10-year-olds who have cell phones. I think that, it creates a lot of, I think it creates potentially like a lack of individuality when everything that they see is, essentially someone else's content, someone else's video, things they like, and that there's nothing wrong with, liking things and wanting to follow somebody and follow somebody's journey or videos, whatever. But I think like nowadays too, with a lot of like the younger people, I think it's creating kind of, everything that they see is how they want to act, whether it's, somebody they idolize and things like that, and it can cause a lot of, like, again, like I think like an identity crisis as they get older, because they think
Well,
that.
it's also a crutch and a
Yeah,
way to
exactly.
avoid. Remember back in middle school and high school, how awkward, there were a lot of awkward conversations and a lot of, that you didn't want to do, but you did because you wanted to be around people. Phones allow people to avoid that. And when we avoid those social interactions, those really awkward conversations, you have fewer opportunities to build resilience, fewer opportunities to build relationships. And that makes you more susceptible to having anxiety and other mental health issues, because it is through that process of embarrassment and that you learn to, adapt and cope. So I grew up in the 70s. We played dodgeball. I get
Love
mad
that.
at Oh, love that game.
Yeah.
Tommy Knopf would make a call that pissed me off because I wasn't out. I was sure I wasn't out.
Yeah.
And he called me out, stopped home. I'm angry, slammed my door. Those 13 people were the only people I knew. I didn't know there were a billion other people out there. If I didn't go back and figure out how to negotiate my way back into that friend group, what happened? I'd have a very boring summer. They weren't going to all come to my house and beg me to come back out. I had to go down there. And that's where we learned those negotiation skills
Yeah.
during that freelance time when other kids are our referees.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's good in just everything that, the whole social aspect you mentioned. I think that kind of goes hand in hand where if somebody's on their phone all day or by themselves, they tend to be more isolated. But having the kind of divide where, you're on your phone for a little bit and then you're hanging out with your friends and you have the social, interaction, you have people that are in your life that be there for you. So I think that that's definitely very good advice for sure.
So I have a clip on my phone.
Yeah.
And that's so when I'm with a friend, I clip it on my purse, I turn it around, or I put it on the floor so it is not even on the table. If we want to take a picture, we take it at the beginning or the end. I do not want that device interrupting my face-to-face time
Yeah.
because it's important. And that's what I teach, and that's what I follow.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's really smart. Yeah, I try to do the same. Like when I'm at work, or like when I'm, at home and stuff, I kind of keep it out of sight and just check it periodically here and there. But I think that it's very, very good to do, to kind of not always have it on your person, or, in your sight lines as much, because, then you're just not really engaged fully in the moment, for sure, when you're spending it with other people you
Wow,
care about.
that's That's actually really good sort of self-care because most people have it in their pocket. And, I don't know many young people that do that, Ryan. So kudos to you. And I'm glad you brought it up today.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, yours was great too. I like how you said about you clip it and you take stuff, photos and things at the start or at the end of having face to face time with somebody. So I think that
Yeah.
that's really good. As for me on my end, I don't really have any more questions for you. This has been like honestly super wonderful. And I know that you kind of got to go. So I know you got a meeting at 2:30. You said. Luckily, it's close
Yeah.
by. Like I really wanted to thank you so much for your time, AnneMoss. It was great talking to you. Great hearing your insights, your expertise, and everything.
Thanks so much for reaching out. And I think it's important that I do interviews like this because I'm guessing you reach a little bit younger demographic. And
Yeah, well, we try to reach whoever we can. It's for us, it's all about awareness and everything, no matter the age. And like you said, like I honestly didn't really know that people as young as 7, 8 years old were going through tough times as well. Just I
I know.
remember being that young, and I don't remember having obviously like those thoughts, but it's just
I didn't either.
yeah, it's just amazing. So whoever sees this, we're all about raising awareness, and we were so thrilled to have AnneMoss join us today. Thank you again for your
Thank
time and
you.
everything.
Thank you for having
Of
me.
course, thank you. Yeah.
Mwah.
Take care. Bye bye.
You too. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.